What's up, guys? My name is Johnny Bannon with Trevor Technologies, and today is going to be video 1 of my STP series, Spanning Tree Protocol. So click the link below to follow Trevor Technologies' Confluence how-to page, and let's get started. Alright guys, so first things first, let's bring up our Confluence page. I've made a pretty robust section on Spanning Tree Protocol. So this first slide is just going to be going over STP, going to go over the IEEE standards, and then Cisco's per VLAN spanning tree, and then all the newer implementations, right? So rapid spanning tree, now the standard, and then MST. Wouldn't say it's a standard, but it's definitely one you want to use in large campus networks with over hundreds of VLANs. And spanning tree protocol is something that scares people when they're first learning IT, right? And it's not because it's anything crazy. At the end of the day, it's just a loop prevention mechanism in a switch network, right? All STP really does prevents broadcast storms, I like to call it. It prevents loops in a switch network by making some ports forward and some block. So when we have redundancy in a switch network with no spanning tree, we could have a frame loop around the network in what we call a broadcast storm. But with spanning tree protocol, we prevent that by making some of the redundant ports, again, like I said, blocking and forwarding. The reason STP is so intimidating is because all the terminology, the way it picks the root bridge, right, and that's the forwarding switch. There is quite a bit that goes into it, right? You have port roles, port states that are a little different for rapid and regular. And then you can see here the different states on both of them. And then we have something called the bridge protocol data units, right? And those are the actual messages sent in spanning tree to tell the whole switch network what's going on, right? Who the root bridge is, with our bridge priority, system ID extension, and MAC address being a part of that BPDU. So at a high level, let me bring this PowerPoint up, right? All this is a loop prevention mechanism, right? So if we look at this diagram, right, and I brought up the PowerPoint or the PDF that I put in all our lessons. If we send a frame from PC3 with no spanning tree, that frame is going to loop around the network, right, until it finds its host. Well, a spanning tree, one of these two ports right here is going to be determined as the best path to the root bridge. The root bridge being the switch with the lowest bridge ID, okay? And that bridge ID, I know it explains it some here and here. Let's see. That's okay, guys, we can't find it in here. I did write about it. The bridge ID is an 8-byte header on a frame that will contain 3 flags, right? Remember, the lowest bridge ID becomes the root switch. So the bridge priority is a part of that bridge ID, and it's an integer from 0 to 61,440, and it increments in this number, right? So this is what all the switches look at in the first selection and picking the root switch, and lower is better. Then you also have the system ID extension. So this is an integer from 0 to 4095. And if you notice that these are all the VLAN numbers, standard and extended range. So this is for per VLAN spanning tree, right? So you have this, right, the bridge priority. So the default is something like 32,768. Well, the bridge priority number for VLAN 100 will be that default plus 100. And that 100 is the system ID extension. Then also in the bridge ID is the MAC address of the switch. And this is used for tiebreakers, right? So let's say on VLAN 100, switch 1 and switch 2. See if I have a diagram. Let's say these two switches, right? D1 and D2. Let's say they have the same bridge priority number, the default. and then it's still VLAN 100, right? How are they going to choose who's the root for that spanning tree instance of VLAN 100? They choose it by looking at each other's MAC addresses. And the lower MAC address becomes the root. So that's our tiebreaker, we like to say. Now, what if these two switches had 2 ports to each other? Same system ID, right? Same MAC addresses on those 2 ports, right? Because it's the MAC address of the switch. What's the tiebreaker then? It's going to be the lower interface number. That actually becomes the root port. So if we have an instance where 2 switches are connected to each other with 4 different redundant ports and we're not doing either channel, obviously the switch is going to have the same MAC address, right? Now let's say this is the root and this isn't. Which one is going to be forwarding is based off the lower port number, okay? That's the tiebreaker if these 3 can't decide on what the root port's going to be, okay? So in regular spanning tree protocol, we have these port states. So it goes through listening and learning, and it takes about 30 seconds. And then from there, the listening and learning states, right? That's where we get all of our BPDUs and all that. It's going to decide what state it's going to go into, blocking or forwarding. And then we have the port roles, right? A designated port or a root port. The root port, when you see that, that means that's the port to the root bridge, the root switch, right? And then these designated ports are just forwarding, okay? So they could be taking packets from their downstream neighbor, right? Take those packets and then they forward them out to the root port. When you are the root switch, you have nothing but designated ports because you don't need a port to the root switch because you are the root switch. So that's in regular STP. And then you have rapid spanning tree. You can see there's just a listening state that goes straight into discarding or forwarding. And then you see the roles change a little bit. Instead of a non-designated, you have an alternate. And instead of saying blocking, we have discarding. So with this only one learning state, the conversion to rapid spanning tree is a lot quicker. And then we also have a cost, right? So if we go back down here, if these are our gig ports, that means the cost of the root switch is 4, right? So let's say we know this is the root switch. Well, our cost of the root switch is going to be only 4 here. But if we send frames this way, it's going to be 8, right? Because 4 right here and 4 right here. So that's in a summary spanning tree protocol, guys. And if that wasn't very clear, if it sounds like I'm not speaking English, there's a lot of resources on spanning tree, okay? You can download this PowerPoint, read through it, and supplement it with this information here. You can go to Cisco's websites. I think that's what these are. Yep. Got links for you, right? Resources. That's your best friend in IT. And then we can actually get into configuration where things might start making a little bit more sense, right? So this spanning tree configuration that I'm going to do looks like it's not too bad, guys. So we're just going to follow this. Looks like the first thing we do is create trunks between all 4 of these switches. We're going to create some VLANs. We're going to verify our trunk ports. And then we're going to look at the spanning tree instance for VLAN 10. And then we're going to check our root port here, see where our root bridge is, and then we're going to change it. Something I didn't do, since this is regular spanning tree, right? I should have changed the mode. So I'll go back and fix that, and in our actual lab, we'll change the mode on all of our switches, okay? And yeah, we'll change it. Yeah, we'll change our mode on all our switches, okay? So we can see regular spanning tree. So let's bring up GNS3. Let's open up that lab. I already have it made right here, so if you need to pause, go back to Confluence and look at our network diagram, you can. I'm just going to double check that these ports are all the same as they are on the Confluence page. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 0, 2, 1. Yes, it looks like they're the same. So this is still a good lab. Now it's console into all these. I don't need my router for this one. I'm going to put switch 4 here, switch 3 here, switch 2 here. Alright guys, so I hope these switches are blank so we can do a clean configuration on them. Let's do a show run real quick. Okay, we got VLANs made, that's okay. Let's see what we got here. I see we need to default these right here. So we're going to do that real quick, guys. So sorry, you can skip ahead if you want. I just want to make sure that we have a clean configuration. So 0, 0 through 0, 3. And then we'll go in interface range. Shut and no shut. On these viral switches, when you default them, you have to go in and no shut, shut and no shut, or they'll be stuck in this reset mode, which is normal, but then they won't actually be forwarding any traffic, so you have issues. Alright guys, now in our lab, let's do some housekeeping, as I like to call it. Also, Cisco likes to call it that, so I used to be a CCNA instructor. And anytime we did some basic configuration like this, they called it housekeeping. Oh, what we got here? Gig3/0. Show run interface gig. 3/0. Okay, it's probably just a weird error. Yeah, these viral switches sometimes are not the best. They can be really annoying. If you watch all my other switch videos, sometimes they just don't act right. Alright guys, woo! Let's take a breather. Go back to our page. And now we're going to do this configuration. So one thing I'm going to do here, just to make this quick, I'm just going to go copy and paste. I know, super lazy because you guys are home are probably doing this by hand. That's okay though, because this is not a trunking video. We should already know how to do that, right? We're all about STP in this video. And that's a good thing about this, guys. If you don't want to waste your time, following these how-tos is perfect because you can just go in and copy and paste. All right. And that's why I put this code in there, not just for teaching, but also for convenience. All right, now let's go back to our GNS3, bring these switches up, switch 3, switch 4. All right, guys. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create VLANs on all these switches, VLANs 10 through 19. Go through every single one. Change the host name on here, right? That'll make it look clear. 10 through 19. Ooh, VTP mode off. We don't need VTP running, guys. That's from a previous video. VTP mode off. Turn them all off, even if this is in server mode or transparent. Won't matter. Awesome. I know this one's VTP mode off, but just double check. 10 through 19. Great. So 10 through 19 is now created on all these switches. Now let's look here closely. Spanning tree mode per VLAN spanning tree. So this is a Cisco thing, right? Per VLAN spanning tree, but all the logic is going to be based off 802.1d, and that is the standard for regular spanning tree, okay? So we're going in normal spanning tree mode. That's what I like to call it. Normal. The old standard way. Tree mode. T. Spanning tree mode. PBST. Alright guys. So now if we do show spanning tree, we're going to have spanning tree instances for all of our VLANs, and they can just go on and on. And that's why we're just going to work with VLAN 10. So let's go in and do show spanning tree VLAN 10. And we're going to find where our root is, right? So here we can see it's still in the learning state. So maybe if we Control C, do it again. Now it's in the forwarding state. Good. So you actually got to see, right, the states in the spanning tree. You saw it first starts with listening, then learning, then goes straight into forwarding or blocking in regular spanning tree. And here we can see an alternate role. And if you see, this port's also going towards the root. I just know that just cause, but if I look, it shows me right there. Gig 1/1/0. Bring up switch 3 again. Wow, what just happened? Okay, so this switch just wanted to restart on me. Like I said, guys, sometimes these switches act funny in GNS 3. The beauty of doing live videos, right? So we should have no configuration on here. Yes, perfect. Let's go back to Confluence. Let's do this right here. Bring up switch 3. Go into line com 0. Turn analog synchronous. BTP mode off. We're going to do VLAN 10 through 19. Exit. Spanning tree mode. PVST. That was super weird, but let's see if we're back where we were before. All right, now we can see these states come up again. We're in the listening state. Let's look one more time. Still listening. For some reason, these are just in the straight up blocking state. I guess they don't need to go through the listening and learning. All right, now we're learning. We should be forwarding here soon. So here you can actually see how long it takes a regular spanning tree, right? This is taking forever. Now we're in the forwarding state. Okay, guys. So if we're on a live network, right, and we didn't have a nice little network diagram right here, we would find our root by doing some show commands. So I'm going to do show CDP neighbors. And that'll tell us it's switch 1. In a live network, you should have management set up. So then I would SSH, right, L, username to that address. But since we're in GNS3 environment, we don't need to do all that. Just a little helpful tip though. If you need to find your root, you just follow that path, right? Okay. So now we'll do show spanning tree VLAN 10. Here, a couple of different ways we can notice the root bridge. It tells us right there. It also tells us that we all have designated ports. For VLAN 10, all the ports are designated. That means we know this is a root switch, because a root switch doesn't have root as a role in any of its ports. I want to go back to switch 3 now. We're going to make this the root for VLAN 10. And I want to show you something, guys. You see these 2 ports right here connected to switch 1? How did it choose which one it was to be the root? Because it has the same priority number. It's going to have the same MAC address. Actually, this is us right here, right? Our bridge ID. And it's going to have the same system ID extension right here, 10. So for all intents and purposes, the cost and our bridge IDs are the same for these 2 ports. So why port 5 to be the root? It's because of this priority number right here. Lower has the right of way. Oh, so it has priority. Sorry guys, and I'm airborne in the Army, and we say lower jumper has the right of way, and anyways. So the lower number has priority, okay? So now let's go in and let's change it. So spanning tree, VLAN 10, we're gonna do it either like this, just say, hey, you're gonna be the root. And that'll change the number to 0 on the bridge ID, the bridge number. Or we can say priority and make it lower than everywhere else. We can do that by typing 4096, lower is better, right? And now let's look at our spanning tree. It's all going to be designated, and a few ports are going into the listening state, right? It's doing that reconvergence. So now if we go up here, do show spanning tree, boom. We're no longer the root. This guy is, and now we're forwarding to our root, on gig 1/0. So that's how easy spanning tree is to manipulate, guys. If you want to make another switch to root. Some other things you can do. So let's say gig 3/01, right? So you saw how long it took for spanning tree to converge, right? To send BPDUs and figure out what state and what role the port should take. So if you have users and if spanning tree is automatic by default, what's going to happen when you plug a computer into a port going through the spanning tree convergence? If you guess it's going to take forever to actually come up, 30 to 50 seconds, you'd be right. So some things we can do on our ports is actually this command, spanning tree port fast. And you're going to get this warning saying, hey, you're turning spanning tree off. So if you plug a hub or switch into here, use it with caution because you might have a spanning tree or you might have a loop, a broadcast storm. But if we know this is for host only, doing this command is fine. And what's going to happen is that this port's going to go immediately into a forwarding state. No spanning tree convergence, no BPDU messages at all. Other things we can do here is we can do BPDU guard, right? So enable. So what this is, just more protection. So since we're an access port, right, for host, there should be no BPDUs come across the link at all. So if we do get a BPDU, we're going to put that port into an error state saying, whoa, 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 something malicious is going on here. I'm getting a BPDU from a port that should not be getting BPDUs. Okay? And we can do other things, guys, as you can see here. We can change the cost. We can do other show commands. We can do interface gig 1/0. We can see all the VLANs associated with that. Show spanning tree summary. Just more show commands, guys. Honestly, I've only ever used this show spanning tree VLAN number because this kind of gives me everything I need to do to troubleshoot, right? If you use other commands, that's great, but this is all I need to usually troubleshoot spanning tree. All right, guys. So I want to thank you for viewing. Sorry about that little technical glitch we had there. Spanning trees can be a hard topic, okay, guys? It can seem like a lot and pretty intimidating when you're first learning it. There's a lot of resources out there, CBT Nuggets, INE, that teachers way better than me explaining it, and they've been doing it for years. So from everyone here at Trevor Technologies, we want to thank you guys for viewing, and remember to keep learning every single day.